What if I told you the first weapon on Earth wasn't made of metal or fire or anything you'd expect? No swords, no spears at first, not even a sharpened rock. What if the deadliest invention in human history started as something you could hold in one hand and looked almost boring? Stay with me, because the answer isn't just surprising. It's going to change how you see every human conflict, every hunt, every act of survival that came after it. We throw around the word weapon like it's obvious. A gun, a knife, a missile. But weapons didn't start as tools of war. They started as something far more desperate. Survival. Around 3 million years ago, our ancestors were not the strongest creatures on the planet. Not even close. No claws, no sharp teeth, no thick fur, no real speed. If nature had a ranking system for creatures most likely to survive, early humans would have been near the bottom. And yet, here we are, ruling the planet, building cities, sending rockets into space. So how did the weakest primate on the savannah become the deadliest species on Earth? The answer begins with a single object, and to understand it, we have to go back, way back, to a discovery that shocked scientists to their core. In 2010, researchers in Ethiopia found something that didn't make sense. Animal bones, old ones, around 3.4 million years old, but these bones had marks on them. Cut marks. Scrape marks. The kind of marks that only appear when something sharp slices through flesh and scrapes against bone. Here's the problem. Stone tools weren't supposed to exist yet, not according to what we thought we knew. This discovery pushed back the timeline of tool use by hundreds of thousands of years, which means our ancestors were using sharp stones to cut meat off bones long before we ever imagined. But cutting meat isn't the same as making a weapon. So what changed? Imagine you're an early human 3 million years ago. You've just found a dead animal, maybe a gazelle, maybe left behind by a lion that already ate its fill. You're hungry, desperate, but you're not alone. Scavengers are watching, waiting. And they are faster, stronger, and far more dangerous than you. Your bare hands can't fight them off. Your teeth are useless against their jaws. So what do? You reach for a rock, not to build something, not to create art. But because that rock in your hand means the difference between eating tonight or becoming the meal yourself. That single moment, stone in hand, fear in your chest, might be the true birthplace of the first weapon. But here's where things get weird, because a rock on its own was never really a weapon. It was just a rock. What turned it into a weapon was intention. Something changed inside the human brain, the ability to imagine cause and effect, to think, if I throw this, it will hurt that. That single thought, before it even happened, was more dangerous than any claw or fang nature ever designed. Nature spent millions of years engineering teeth, horns, and venom, and humans casually bypassed the whole system with a thought experiment and a rock. It's like evolution accidentally left a bug in the system. Because think about it, every predator on Earth has to get close to kill. Claws need contact. Teeth need contact. But a thrown rock? That works from a distance. No claws required, no physical strength required, just aim. For the first time in the history of life on Earth, a creature could kill without touching its target. That is not a small development. That is a turning point for the entire planet. But throwing rocks was just the beginning, because nature had given humans something even more useful than intelligence. Shoulders. I know. Shoulders don't sound exciting, but stay with me. Human shoulders are strange compared to other primates. They're loose, flexible, built for rotation. Chimpanzees can't throw the way we can. Their shoulders are locked into a different structure, built more for climbing than launching. But somewhere in our evolutionary path, our shoulders shifted, loosened, adapted. And that adaptation gave humans one of the most underrated superpowers in the animal kingdom, the ability to throw with speed and accuracy. Studies on human throwing mechanics show that our shoulders act almost like a slingshot, storing energy and releasing it in a fraction of a second. No other primate can do this, not even close. Which means evolution wasn't just giving us smarter brains, it was quietly building the perfect weapon-throwing machine. And we didn't even know it yet. Imagine explaining that to your ancestors. Hey, one day your shoulder is going to help invent war. They'd probably just stare at you and go back to eating a lizard. But this new ability came with consequences. Because once you can kill from a distance, everything changes. Hunting changes. Defense changes. Even social structure changes. If a single human with a rock could bring down prey without close combat, that meant less risk. Fewer injuries, more food, more survival. Groups that used this ability had an advantage over groups that didn't. And in evolution, advantages spread fast. But here's where scientists were completely surprised. Because the story doesn't stop with rocks. Fast forward hundreds of thousands of years and something extraordinary appears in the archaeological record. Wooden spears. In Schöningen, Germany, archaeologists discovered spears dating back around 300,000 years. Carefully shaped, balanced, front-heavy like a javelin. These weren't random sticks, they were engineered. Someone had figured out the physics of flight, which means long before written language, long before agriculture, humans were already solving complex problems of aerodynamics. This wasn't just survival anymore, this was innovation. But that's only half the story, because a sharpened stick and a thrown rock were still just the first chapter in a much longer saga. The real transformation came when humans stopped using single tools and started combining them. This is called hafting, attaching a stone point to a wooden handle. And it might be one of the most underrated inventions in human history, because a stone alone can cut, a stick alone can stab. But combine them, you get something exponentially more lethal. Hafted weapons appear in the archaeological record hundreds of thousands of years ago, and they represent something bigger than sharp objects. They represent planning, because hafting requires multiple steps. Finding the right stone, shaping it, finding the right wood, attaching them together with natural adhesive. That's not instinct, that's forward-thinking design. Your brain is basically saying, let's build something that doesn't even exist yet, using materials from 3 different places. This moment marks something huge in human cognitive evolution. The ability to imagine an object before it physically exists. No other species on Earth does this the way humans do. Yes, animals use tools. Chimpanzees use sticks. Otters use rocks. Crows use hooks. But none of them design multi-part tools with a future purpose in mind. Humans didn't just use objects from their environment. They engineered solutions to problems that didn't even exist yet. And once that mental leap happened, there was no turning back. From here, weapon technology accelerates. Bows and arrows appear roughly 60,000 to 70,000 years ago, allowing humans to strike from even greater distances with incredible precision. Now you'd think that's the end of the story. Spears, bows. Problem solved, right? But evolution and human ingenuity had another plan. Because these weapons didn't just help humans hunt animals, they also began shaping human society itself. Groups with better weapons had access to more resources, more protection, more survival advantages, which meant weapon development wasn't just a biological story anymore, it became a cultural one, a social one. And here's the uncomfortable truth science keeps circling back to. The same tool that helped humans survive predators eventually became a tool used against other humans. That first rock, picked up out of fear and hunger millions of years ago, set off a chain reaction that still echoes today. Every weapon in human history, from swords to firearms to satellites capable of tracking enemy movement, traces its lineage back to that single desperate moment. A hungry human, a predator nearby, a rock in hand. So when you really think about it, the first weapon wasn't created for war. It was created for survival. But the moment humans understood cause and effect, the moment we realized we could act at a distance, we crossed a threshold no other species on Earth has ever crossed. We became the only creatures capable of premeditated harm, and in a strange way, that ancient rock is still with us. Just upgraded a few million times. So here's a question worth sitting with. If the first weapon was born from fear, what does that say about every weapon that came after it? If you enjoyed exploring this mystery, subscribe to Mr. Sticky POV for more fascinating stories about humans, nature, science, and the hidden reasons behind the world around us.